Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the LJL officially unofficial. We are here in week 2 of the spring split. Middlecott and RMC on your screen. We're going to have a draft thrown at you very soon. RMC, this is our match of the week. Any key thoughts before we get into it?
Well, it's the supposed super team against last year's super team here, and the scores haven't quite reflected that Middlecott, but I'm still expecting a bit of a banger here.
Expecting a banger, definitely. Hawks going 0-2 in week 1 is not something that we necessarily expected, and if DFM have their way, then the Hawks are going to be going home 0-3. We're already through first sort of phase of our bans here. We are on patch 12.3, and it's a poppy first pick for DFM. The response coming through with the Aphelios for the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming.
Yeah, it's worth noting, we see the Zeri ban, the Caitlyn ban. Jinx is still on the table, and we're just saying, that the LJL seems to be getting their hands around the Jinx, starting to pick that a little bit more, but apparently not so much here for Marbles. Still going with that Aphelios, has had 2 games on it, 2 losses, but still trusting that particular pick.
And Marble's been a bit of a weird player for me because there was a lot of hype on him coming out of Amateur, being one of this next superstar AD carries, and we haven't really seen it thus far. Utapon on the other side, they're going to be picking up a Jinx, a champion that we've only seen him play twice throughout his entire career.
Yeah, and it'll be the first time this split as well for Utapon. So Utapon also favoring that Aphelios quite highly here, but I just think Jinx is so strong, you can't afford to give that away. Now, it's also worth noting, we are on patch 12.3. We do see the LeBlanc being locked in for Dasher here, and LeBlanc did just get a nerf on this patch, along with the Twisted Fate, along with the Corki pickup, but that still seems to be what they want to pick, and I don't know if it's going to work. We've seen LJL Poppies be incredibly adept at blocking these sort of dash-in engage style champions.
And for Dasher on the LeBlanc, that's going to cause a lot of issues. It feels almost arrogant in some way from the Hawks, seeing this Poppy first pick and then locking in the Lee Sin, locking in the LeBlanc champions that rely on that in-kit mobility so much. RMC, we've got a few champions locked in. What answers to the questions the opponent are posing do we think these teams are going to pull out?
Well, both of these teams right now are still looking for their supports and top laners, and I think DFM are sitting pretty here. They don't need to react to anything. Their draft is already very solid looking in terms of team fighting, so it's really up to the Hawks to try and find some sort of answer here. And what I want to see from them, considering that now your dash champions, your Lee Sin, your LeBlanc, are going to get blocked a lot by that Poppy, is some sort of engage, something that allows you to get in there here. Tanks like the Ornn, like the Scion, might not be a bad idea here. What I really don't want to see is something like an Akali for Kinatsu, which, well, he tried before into the Poppy, did not work out well.
Doesn't work at all. I really like the Lulu ban from Hawks there. It felt like DFM, all they needed on this composition was a generic tank in the top lane for Ebby and a support that can enable Utapon. Obviously, taking one of those off the table is going to make that Jinx a little less scary, but there are still other enchanter supports that you can default to if you so wish.
Yeah, and the nice thing about what we're already seeing from DFM is that if they want an engage tank instead for the support role and go with a carry in the top lane, that is still a possibility. We've seen Ebby already pull out the Tryndamere and Camille, the Tryndamere ban, but Camille is still on the table. Gray's being picked up for Kinatsu. That's not exactly what I was hoping to see here, and still doesn't answer the question of how are you going to team fight into the Jinx and Victor?
I mean, you could just decide not to team fight if that's really what you want to do. LeBlanc, Lee Sin don't really feel like champions that are going to excel in that, and maybe going for a more pick-oriented style with Kinatu split pushing, then Dasher and Blanc to help him out of a sticky situation is the way that Hawks are going to play this one out. DFM choosing to move away from the Enchanter option for Harp in the bot lane, instead locking in the Leona, a pick that has so much engaged potential.
Yeah, and despite the fact that Harp has picked Enchanter so far this split, I don't know how deep his pool really is at this point. So yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting here. You go with the tank instead. You've got a nice front tanky tanky frontline, pardon me there. To protect your Jinx, protect your Victor, you pick something like a Camille, which can now split push into the likes of a Graves. You've got kill threat. Yes, Hullbreaker Graves will be able to push really well into the Camille, protect your waves and your turrets, but Camille has that dive threat. And for HAWKS, it feels like the Braum pickup here, more than a counter pick, it's kind of like they're being forced into it now. If you can't split push, if your pick potential is not there, you're just kind of like, okay, last ditch effort, let's try and get something here for Marble so that maybe we can still find a pick or two, find some sort of kill in that objective fight situation.
RMC, I don't want to read into the tone of your voice too much here, but and from that laugh as well, it sounds like DFM's win conditions are a bit more obvious and a bit more accessible than what HAWKS want to be doing.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it here. I mean, like we said, DFM's composition is very, very clear-cut, and they've got lots of tools. Camille, whilst not exactly a big team fighter here, can still have a lot of impact in a lot of these fights, finding the back line, looking for Marble on the Aphelios, still lots of options there. And they're just a better team fighting team, which means their game style is easier. Get to the objective, win at the objective. Whereas when you take a look at, what the HAWKS have to do, that's when it gets really complicated with this composition, the Lee Sin, the LeBlanc. It's a great combo in isolation. And you know what? In the laning phase, it's still going to do great against Yaharong here. The Victor can be punished really well. That is a kill lane. But the moment Steel shows up, well, everything gets shut down. I'm just reminded last game of, I believe it was Steel playing against Once's Lee Sin as well.
Yes.
Just Once going to do a darn thing. And I'm sorry, Black, you're good. You're a former world champ, but it's just a champion mismatch.
Yeah. Well, we'll see Once a little bit later today, as they are playing in our game too. Hopefully has recovered from that Lee Sin game. It didn't look great for him. We're going to be jumping into game now. DFM versus the Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming. And a bit of a resident sleeper level 1 here. Neither team wants to overstep in these early stages.
Yeah, fair enough. And I will say that I think Braum is actually one of the strongest level 1 supports, but
agreed.
Defensively, incredible. Offensively, a little bit harder to navigate. We are seeing, though, DFM getting in there, getting the vision down. They would like to be able to track where Blank is starting here, because Steel can really go to any which lane they so choose to get things going. They're not the ones with the pressure to make something happen. That is still on the HAWKS here.
Yeah, but I did like that you highlighted Steel there. He's a player that I feel like can often go under the radar a little bit when discussions about DFM. Last year it was all about Arya. This year it feels like we've been talking a lot about Ebby and obviously new mid, new bot lane coming through. Steel has always been a reliable player for them, has played very consistently, and has often been the player that makes things happen. Last week, in their first 2 games, he did some very creative jungle pathing where he cleared the entire of an enemy's top quadrant and then dive the corresponding lane, secure some summoners, get those laning advantages that DFM really seem to play for right now. Harp actually going for a small trade onto Marble here at the level 1. Guardian procced as well.
Has to be very careful, though. The reason why Braum is so strong early on is because of that Frostbite passive as well. Once he gets stunned up, it's extra damage. The Braum Q is % health as well. So Harp, despite, trying to go on the offensive here, not really getting the better of these trades.
Utapon, they are going to hit level 2 here, and Harp goes in. Just some damage traded back onto Rhino, and that's a stun back onto Harp as well. So DFM, even though they initiated that trade, doesn't look as good for them. Dasher now going forward, lands the Ethereal Change, the Sonic Wave as well, but Blank will not resonating strike forward. Steel was waiting in the wings.
Glad to see Blank doesn't suffer from Lee syndrome there, because even if Steel didn't show up, that is under a turret and into a Victor. Kind of dicey there, and already we're seeing the junglers getting aggressive, but because of that middle caught, we're not going to get to see Steel, go aggressive, go into the enemy quadrant here. Yaharong does not have the lane control or prio, and neither does Ebby that's required to really back up this Poppy invade.
And whilst it would be nice to take away enemy jungle camps to get these early advantages, it's not something that it feels like DFM have really needed. They've been one of the more passive early game teams. They have responded to enemy aggression, but it's always a response to enemy aggression. Sort of just been relying on gaining natural advantages through the laning phase, and then once we start getting to these team fights around objectives, that's where they really shine.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you bring up that stat as well, Middlecott, because DetonatioN FocusMe actually aren't the best early game team. They're 4th in the league for goal difference at 15 here, and second is the HAWKS. The SoftBank HAWKS are the ones who tend to have an early game lead, and it's not through their CS. They're actually getting it through gank. So Blank looking around not finding anything is actually a bit of a win here for DetonatioN FocusMe. It's how they want to play. It's their comfort zone. And now Steel popping head in, checking, getting some vision down, and snuck into this bush. Reina and Marble don't really know, though they might suspect because of that ward clear.
Yeah, they've got a sneaking suspicion. Harp is going to go forward nonetheless.
Okay.
The FM still actually tackling forward onto Reina as well. Didn't really feel like anything was going to happen there, but showing his face on the bottom side of the map, applying that pressure regardless.
Yeah, I think Steel, that's kind of like Steel being like, I'm here, there's nothing for me to take.
Well.
I'm just going to, just get some damage down. I'm just going to recall. It takes me 2-3 extra seconds there. We're good to go. Now, Middlecott, while we've got a bit of a potential lull, and I say potential because Blank is looking to sneak into that bot lane as well, but we'll get spotted on the board. The stakes for this game here, for both of these teams, I mean, SoftBank's HAWKS were supposed to be the big super team. They're 0-2, and this feels like a bit of a, a test of old versus new, but you mentioned something interesting, more of a passing of the torch situation here.
Well, a little bit here. So coming into 2021 summer, we hyped up DFM as this big super team. Kazu was out, Gang was back in the lineup. They were really at full power. And then they started 0-3. I'm not saying that it's necessary for a super team to start 0-3. We did see Vitality post a similar record in the LEC. And losing isn't good, but with these super teams, with these teams bringing together all these disparate components, it can take a little bit more time for things to gel. And I think that actually might be why we're seeing these advantages coming out early on, because you just have these strong players, and then maybe you start to fall off a little bit later into the game where coordination becomes really important.
So what I'm hearing here, Middlecott, is you're predicting a DFM win.
Oh,
for the 0-3.
I feel like that's not a particularly egregious thing to say. Blank has been hovering around mid for a fair while here. Yaharong has been playing nice and safely back, although saying that, Dasher does go forward with the ethereal chains, but once again, Blank just can't commit for it.
Yeah, really good use of that gravity field there from Yaharong to say, Blank, if you come in on this, I'm willing to trade my life 1-for-1, and there's no guarantee you've got enough damage to burst me down. Steel and Harp's collapse as well was beautiful and Blank.
Ooh.
He tried to be cheeky.
Yeah, it was quite cheeky. I mean, if he's hitting that wall, he is a dead man. The Yaharang might be a dead man here as Dasher is going forward. The chains did proc, but there's not quite enough follow-up just yet. HAWKS just throwing out some skill shots, dishing out a little bit of damage, but nothing resulting in a kill just yet. Drake is on the table. Maybe Blank looks to start this up.
Yeah, they even dragged Marble up, actually, to that particular fight. You can see that they really want to secure control around this part of the map, and it's actually a little surprising because DetonatioN FocusMe, after the first 2 days, have had a 91.7% Dragon control rate. They do not give up Dragon easily whatsoever, even to the detriment of their Herald control. They've only gotten 25% of the Heralds that have spawned here. So I don't think DetonatioN FocusMe would just back off. They're healthy enough that they will probably come in contest, and I'm expecting to see them come back in, clear vision, get their own wards down to be able to contest the HAWKS.
Yeah, and they will have to contest the HAWKS because there is a proverbial line of wards in that river, around about 5 or so. So really focusing on getting that priority around the Jake. And it's a little bit of a switch up of styles, honestly, from DFM. In summer, they were all about Rift Herald, getting that early gold advantage and using that to snowball the map so that, yeah, even if the enemy team gets a couple of Drakes, they're definitely not going to get the third. And at that point, you kind of just end up losing.
True. You can't afford to be giving up that much, while trying to stack Drakes here. Now, it is worth noting, Udapon did start with Cull, so not quite as strong, in terms of the early game trades for now. And DFM, they're actually looking at Herald. I like the roam up from Heart, but they did not spot the ward there, so Hawks know where the majority of Detonation FocusMe are.
It was a little bit rude from Steel there, just taking a third of Kinati's health. It's a phase rush Poppy, not the Dark Harvest or Electrocute combo, so
True.
A little bit less of that damage in the early game, but you've got a bit more safety, a bit more maneuverability, and I imagine that's going to be particularly useful once we do get to those later fights and Blank and Dasher are just gunning for Utapon and Yaharong.
Yeah, he's trying to reposition, get wherever he can. Harp
forced to flash away. And Dasher will go forward. Actually gets stunned up, and the Chaos Storm has been dropped, knocked into the air. The Super Mega Death Rocket! And the charge from Steel grabs first blood for DFM.
Yeah, I was watching Utapon leave base and move up, and I was like, is DFM gonna start focusing the Herald? But no, they just send the rocket up, and they're right back down, looking at Dragon instead, looking to get Utapon back into the lane and farming. It feels so random, Middlecott, this first blood that came through. They're just poking around, and, you know, somebody pokes their head out a little bit too far, and it starts out with Harp baiting here, right? Leona's super tanky with the Eclipse, still such a strong champion, and then the stun that gets the LeBlanc there. There's the follow-up CC, right? It's so difficult, unfortunately, for Dasher. Once you're in range of that set pass presence, you can't even distort out and away from that, so you just kind of have to eat the Chaos Storm damage.
Yeah, I like the idea of Harp baiting there. That's I'd have gone with baiting there as well. Crucially as well, 3 flashes blown by the Hawks. Losing that on Blank, losing that on Dasher means that your playmaking ability drops off significantly, and you need to be making plays. Like this composition, yeah, there's some scaling options there in the Aphelios, and that Graves on a side lane, whilst it probably can't match the Camille, is not going to be messing around. You've got the tools to get things done early, and fundamentally that hasn't happened for the Hawks.
Yeah, and the flashes they blew too are actual flashes, whereas DFM, they blew 3 flashes, but Harp and Steel have Hextech flash, and it looks like they're going just right back into the mid lane.
Dasher caught out with the Solar Flare. Glacial Fissure will buy a little bit of time as Steel is forced back slowly. We'll just be able to walk that one out. These teams just are fighting over nothing in this mid lane constantly.
I did not expect this from the LJL. I thought, you know, the mid lane ARAM was an ARAM special, right? That's a North American thing now. Marble does have to be careful, does have to cleanse, and there is no more Solar Flare here. But you don't want to be caught out the Aphelios on your own. Hawks have started up the Herald here, and DFM, I don't know if they've got vision. It doesn't look like it because they're not really punishing the play elsewhere.
They're still going for it, though. Still Hex flashed over the wall. Kinatu locked in the Hextech ultimatum and will just be taken down. That turret shot was a little bit more important to DFM than I think they would have liked, but Hawks get the Herald as well.
Yeah, and that's a worthwhile trade. 1 for Herald here, especially if you can leverage that elsewhere. Yeah, I honestly thought Kinatsu might have been able to find somebody on the exit.
It was close. It was close.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. The turret shot, MVP of that particular play there. But now, Ebby did pick up the Divine Sunderer. That is a bit of a power spike for this Camille here. You do get to bully out Kinatsu ever so slightly, unless we do see, you know, like the Hullbreaker completed here. I don't know if he has quite enough gold, and the big question now for Hawks is, where do you want to place this Herald here? Where are you making the move? There's no turret that's taken a lot of damage so far. So you might not be able to rush down a turret, and if that case, your best bet might just be mid lane on the Victor, because Victor's wave clear is so good that without the Herald, I don't really see a good way for Hawks to try and take that mid lane turret.
It would also be funneling some of that gold onto Dasher, and on the LeBlanc, you do kind of need to be ahead of the curve to be relevant as a damage threat. As it stands, still got around about a minute and a half till those plates fall off. DFM, it's been a solid early game from them. I think that's the best way to describe it. 2,000 gold up, haven't had to go for anything particularly outrageous to gain this advantage, as Kinatu is... trading very aggressively up with Ebby here. Blank is around as well, as is Steel, but the Poppy's not going to be there quite in time. That Sonic Wave missing was crucial, and Ebby will stay alive for now.
Yeah, because keep in mind, Abby's running the Ignite here, not the Flash, so there's no more escape after that hook shot is used. And we're starting to see, this Hull Breaker be a thing in the top lane. Actually, we'll hold off here because we do see a Herald play, which might set up into a Dragon play as well.
Well, hopefully. It's 30 minutes and no one's killed a blinking Drake yet. There's that gold funneled onto Dasher, like we already mentioned. And from the looks of the minimap, Marble and Blank are starting this one up. Steel is in the top side, so won't be able to take this one away. But if Hawks are hoping to win with Drake's Soul, they are going to be waiting a damn long time.
True, because it is a very, very, very late Dragon. Kanatsu getting punished again here.
It's just a little bit too brutal.
It is. And so here's the thing with Hullbreaker Graves that I want to talk about. So it's become a thing that we're seeing in a lot of regions for top laners to take Hullbreaker. Hullbreaker gives you defensive stats when you're kind of alone there in that 1v however many situation. But even then, you're not exactly the best at trading or the best at combat. You're taking the Hullbreaker to shove the lane, to wave clear, and just permanently put pressure into the likes of a Camille. This is why I like the pickup. You pick up the Divine Sunderer, and suddenly you out-duel, even with the extra resistances as well. Kinatsu can't afford to push out that aggressively.
Ooh. That was looking close there for Dasher. Really wanted that control board. Didn't get it in the end. Yeah, Hullbreaker doesn't do too much against a Cho'Gath ult on a 5-second cooldown. Dasher looking for Yaharong there. Chain's not quite connecting on to the Victor. This has been good from Yaharong. I think our impressions of him after the first week were solid. Nothing particularly setting the world on fire. Yeah, he's down a little bit of CS in this matchup, but still doing absolutely fine and will scale so much harder than the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and again, we've said DFM, at least so far, the split have looked more like a mid-game team, where they're kind of happy to sit back and farm up. And I'm just waiting for First Turret to really go down and unlock this composition, because the way DFM's comp wants to run is, as a team, you want your Jinx, your Victor together with some sort of tank, and then force the objectives here. You gave up First Herald. That's okay. That's fine. You gave up First Dragon. Okay, that was the result of giving up First Herald. You can live with that. But from here on out, I want to see them contest it. The Kraken Slayer is completed for Utapon. Yaharong's first mythic should be coming in soon as well. And if you're not together, you're opening up yourself to potential pickoffs from this Lee Sin, from this LeBlanc.
Yeah, sort of a question that I have for you right now, RMC. Despite the lead that DFM have got for themselves, once we do reach these mythic item breakpoints as Kanatu, oh my word, that is already a matchup that is going very, very badly for you. But if the Hawks are fighting on sort of even items, are they still ahead at this point?
Not in a team fight.
Not in a team fight, yeah.
If you're going for picks, yes. And we're seeing that right now. You can see Dasher and Blank. If Steel is not there, they are threatening Yaharong. They're threatening Harp as well. Leona is tanky, but not tanky enough. This is not the numbers advantage they need. Yaharong is not here right now.
Kinatsu. Oh, what? It's just every time we pan up to top lane, Ebby is kicking Kinatsu in the face.
Yep. That's not going to change. That's going to be the situation every time we look top. And so far, there's no relief. Blank hasn't really been... Well, Blank's been up there a couple of times, but not recently. Dasher wants to maintain prio around this bot side, and I actually don't know why, because Dragon's down for 2 minutes. Herald's coming up in 30 seconds. You'd think that they want to help out Kinatsu, relieve some pressure up there instead.
Oh, I don't think Steel actually spotted out Blank as he was moving over that ward, so... Maybe this is where Hawks can get the numbers. Goes forward with the kick onto the Poppy, but she's just going to be able to walk it away. Blank not really finding anything. Ebby finding tower in the top side. Doesn't want to go too far forward onto Kinatsu. And once again, Ebby is being this split push just monster in the side lane. Hawks haven't really been able to shut him down at any point. And this is just going to keep getting worse for you guys.
It is. Now, Ebby's actually unlocked to join another lane, or to join, even worse, the team fight right now, right? The team fight's the 4v4s. We've not even seen actual proper team fights. It's been 3v3 skirmishing for the most part, just poking around, saying hi. But Ebby and the Hextech Ultimatum is going to change that, because that ult comes down, that's not saying hi anymore. That's a full-on commit from DFM.
Oh, God. Yeah, a few seasons ago, Dasher and Blank would have been absolutely chilling in this game. Well, I say a few seasons. About 5 or 6. Oh, man, these patches just keep rolling by way too quickly. But they would have felt fine here. But the anti-mobility tools that DFM do have are pretty brutal. And in a game where you're already not really dictating the tempo of it, it's going to be hard for you to actually come back and make aggressive moves. This is sort of what we want to see. HAWKS just pressuring onto that red buff, drawing members of DFM away, which does secure Marble that tower in the bot lane. With Drake spawning now, multiple members of HAWKS in the area, they're going to look to start this one up.
Yeah, Ebby, no TP just yet, so the HAWKS do have a numbers advantage here. DFM just looking to push them off for now, buy a little bit more time. Keeper's verdict.
Ooh, doesn't connect onto him. And that's actually very important. That means that this is going to be an even numbers fight regardless. Steal takes away the Drake, and DFM go, no, we're not fighting that. We're just taking mid lane.
Okay, aptly named jungler there, and now they've got the inside track. They're actually cutting off the HAWKS completely from even walking in here, and unfortunately, they don't have to wait for it. So Utapon going to get good damage, but actually, can they take it?
They can take up the tower. Okay. Second of the game falling in favor of DFM Yaharong. TPing bot to clear a wave. Probably not optimal usage of that summoner spells, but DFM, credit to them. They're playing controlled, they're playing nice and slow, and they're punishing the mistakes that HAWKS are making.
Yeah, and I wanted to start seeing them group up here. Now they've got some turrets down. You can see how strong they are, and HAWKS don't really actually want to fight them. I do think that was the right call from the HAWKS to back out when they saw that TP coming through for now, and we know what DFM want to do. So how do the HAWKS play this out? I think you just leave Marble, you leave Lina here in the mid lane, just shoving out back and forth in that safe lane, and I think you start dangling Konatsu as bait.
When was the last time you saw a top laner getting ganked by his own laner? Ebby's going to look for this one along with Yaharong. The Chaos Storm does so much damage. The Solar Flare invested as well. Yaharong grabs his first kill of the game, and Konatsu has not been having fun.
I mean, okay, I said dangle Konatsu as bait. They kind of did, right? Because Dasher took a turret, and a turret for a kill is worth it.
Yeah, but RMC, he was bait, but they got away. The trap wasn't sprung.
No, the trap was on the other side of the map. They got a turret for it. It's worth. Keep telling yourself that. Everybody else is playing League of Legends. Konatsu's playing Ring Around the Rosies.
4D chess copium.
Hey, man, if you didn't see my background earlier, I'm on a baseball field right now. I believe in the super team, even though they don't seem to be believing in me right now.
So you believe in the super team, RMC. How do they win this game, then?
Dangle Konatsu as bait here, and actually this time set the trap around Konatsu, because there are bounties to be obtained right now. Steel's got 150, Utapon's got 200 here, and okay, next time, even if you don't think that you can protect Konatsu, rather than trading for a turret, because it's going to get harder as you take the outer turrets,
yes,
I want to see them try and spring it onto Utapon, onto Ebby, onto Yaharong, whichever squishy is not trying to kill Konatsu, you go kill them instead, because Konatsu's not worth very much gold, but those carries for DFM are.
I mean, I think we'll have to reevaluate Ebby being squishy. That Hull Breaker coming through gives him a bunch of resistances when he's alone in the side lane. So the trap looks a little bit less likely to be sprung. Fred Jones not going to be too happy about that. But HAWKS, I mean, they're still standing up. They're still contesting. They've not capitulated at all. Yeah, they haven't picked up a kill yet, but they're going to be able to take down this mid lane tower. And they're contesting DFM on these picks, and it feels like there just needs to be one overstep from one of these DFM members, what you were alluding to just now. And if the HAWKS can find that, maybe chain it into another pick. 22 minutes into the game, you're going to have 2 items on your AD carry very soon. Baron becomes a legitimate possibility at some point.
True, and you only really need one pick on a critical carry to feel comfortable going for it, or even onto steal as well. Without the smite here, HAWKS should be able to secure it. And I like what the HAWKS have been doing up to now here with sort of the roaming squad of Dasher, Blank, and sometimes either Lina or Marble. The one part I really don't like is Konatsu constantly almost dying here. I'm scared watching Konatsu try to interact with anyone. It's no longer just Ebby, but that aside, you know, Blank, Dasher, roaming squad here, they are the ones getting the pick. Or the other one's getting the action, if not quite the kills.
Oh, is this spotted? It doesn't. This has not been spotted by
brilliant.
DFM. This is the sort of play that HAWKS needed to make, and still's got no idea. That ward just outside the pit might be starting to spot some people out as the DFM jungler is rotating over.
Right,
Liner's going to spot him. Keeper's verdict is not going to be cancelled there as they throw the Braum away, but I don't know if you quite hear it. Time kicked out. In goes the rocket. How did you get that? Steel, you are a god, and you're going to take out Marble as well. Solar Flare's not going to result in anything. How the hell did DFM get that Baron?
With the rocket to help as well. HAWKS were trying to hold the health on that Baron high, but it wasn't good enough. And still
my god.
I'm losing it, Middlecott. The HAWKS have been playing the macro so well. Okay, we gotta watch a replay of this. So the sneak
This was such a good idea. Such a good idea.
Yeah, and because they have the vision control, they knew, right? The pink ward in there, they took the risk. And they had vision of Steel, they had vision of Yaharong. They know when they start moving. And at this point, now they get vision. TP gets called down, 2,000 health. Okay, Rocket's coming in. Let's see how this goes.
But how does he get in?
He flashed in.
Oh! Steel, you are just way too good at League of Legends sometimes. This is why we were talking about him. This is why he's Mr. Reliable. When the chips are down, DFM can always rely on the jungler to get themselves out of a sticky situation. And now with a Baron buff for a couple of minutes, with that Drake as well, the gold lead is extended even further. And it feels like we're getting into Jinx Victor Siege territory. And there's not very much that HAWKS are going to be able to do about it.
No, not at all here. And for DFM, yeah, they're starting to group up. That's exactly what you want to see here. HAWKS are busy just trying to clear out that mid lane, and they're late to the move. That top lane turret's going to be down, and the moment that top lane turret goes down, mid lane turret's exposed. DFM can look to circle, cut people off on that turret. In fact, they're just going to keep pushing pushing top, I mean.
Yeah, they recognize that they're stronger right now. Harp taken to 30% HP. The Chaos Storm thrown out. The inhib tower will go down.
It's already gone.
Udapon gets excited. A couple of rockets into the back of Kinatsu. And now pressuring onto the inhibitor. HAWKS, they've got ultimates available. They could look for an engage here. But DFM are just going to be able to take the inhib and walk away.
Yeah, and this is exactly what DFM's comp can do when they start grouping up here, much less with Baron. Dasher lands the chains, but Dasher can't even complete it if you try and go in. The rest of DFM is there, and this is what I've been waiting for, Middlecott, with the DFM composition, for them to just group up and work together as five.
Oh, I mean, they were looking absolutely fine as all individuals, working as a unit now. Can't imagine how scary that is for HAWKS, who, honestly, was set up to have some success in the early game, but just weren't able to make it happen. When you are looking at a 0-kill LeBlanc at 26 minutes, you start asking yourself a lot of existential questions that are quite difficult to answer.
Agreed, such as why did we draft LeBlanc and Lee Sin into a Poppy? Or why did we draft the Graves blind when we didn't know what we had to pick it into? Lots of questions, lots of them to think about. Lina, though.
Yeah, getting answered onto here, and there's just nothing the Braum can do. Not at all tanky at this point in the game, still has both summoners up, but neither of them would have saved you in DFM. Just able to walk it through, take down that inhib tower, take down this inhib as well. And my, oh my, are they looking good so far in 2022? We had some concerns about this team, whether they'd be able to gel effectively, whether they would be coming in week 1, week 2 at full power, and I've got to say, they are looking damn scary.
Yeah, and this is looking like a textbook game so far from this split. Quiet early game. DFM just farming up their leads, getting to their breakpoints. As soon as they hit their breakpoints, 1 item, 2 item power spikes to come through, they just kind of steamroll the opposition. And I feel bad for HAWKS because there's so many times they were so close. The fact that they have 0 kills speaks to how unfortunate they were. So many times Blank and Dasher get someone low, force them out, they take the objective. It's good macro play, but the problem is they needed better micro play. They needed to get their assassins popping, and it just never happened.
Yeah, Dasher is a player that we've talked about as being like the one of the bright spots on this team so far, and honestly is sort of just looked a little bit like a random minion this game.
Oi. You know what? It's fair. I recognize my own. It's not been looking too good here, unfortunately. Flashes of brilliance, but nothing here. And now for Hawks, I honestly don't know how they're going to come back to this game. The gold deficit's pretty big right now. 8,000 gold. They couldn't handle a 3,000 gold deficit earlier. 8,000's way, way worse. Dragons coming up in a minute. Barons coming up in a minute. If DFM don't end on this particular push, just go for Baron and end with that.
They might look to. Ebby getting kicked into this team. Can the Hawks grab a kill? Into the stopwatch to buy himself a little bit more time. And of course not. He's still alive. Oh, Hawks threw everything at the kitchen sink at Ebby, but the veteran top laner stays alive. And now, with all of those tools down, no Lee Sin Kick, no Glacial Fissure, no Moonlight Vigil, defending this siege becomes nigh on impossible. And DFM are going to look to secure their third inhib tower and their third inhib very shortly. Blank now Ebby's being engaged onto Kinatsu low as well. Udapon firing out the damage with the rockets into Reiner. That shield not doing too much. First reset of the fight. Nexus towers are now the focus. Hawks, they need to do it here. They need to make their final stand. They finally get a kill, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. Utapod is just tearing through them, ripping them apart with the minigun, with the rockets as well. Hawks, they're looking for some safety on their fountain, but they will not find it. DFM go to 3-0.
Middlecott, we got to call a spade. And that was an absolute shellacking coming out there from the side of DFM. They made it look clean. 5-man report on Heart Please for inting the end there and giving away a kill. But yeah, it could have been a perfectly clean game in terms of kills.
I don't know why they did that. You're going to need to change that background in a little bit, mate, because
fair.
Being a Hawks fan right now is idea at the moment. But yeah, that was kind of classic DFM, right? They have slower, controlled early game, and then once we get to sort of the 20-25 minute mark, they just know how to play that phase of the game better than anyone else in the league, it seems.
Yeah, and they played it so well that I don't think we really got to see what Hawks wanted to do. All we got to see was the early game where Blank was kind of just fishing around for ganks, right? And they wanted to convert the ganks, but it just felt like all the lanes read it so well. Anytime Blank showed up anywhere near a lane, DetonatioN FocusMe just backed off, right? They always had that sixth sense, and it just didn't, unfortunately, quite pan out. It's really rough to see. We're getting to see Evie actually get away with this once again here. This is what I'm talking about, though, right? Like, time and time again, people keep limping away with fractions of health, and it never converts. If any of it had converted, maybe we get to see what the Hawks were trying, thinking, looking to do. But as it stands, they just got run over, and it looks so passive from them.
It did, and it was kind of surprising because we talk about players like Kinatsu and like Dasher at points wanting to play this aggressive style.
Yeah.
And we just didn't really see that at all this game. RMC, final thoughts before we jump to a break. How's it looking for Hawks right now, dude?
You know what? I'm from NA. We've got a lot of copium there. Yeah. And I brought some to spare today. I mean, you can tell I brought some to spare today. So the way I'm going to look at this is, you told me earlier, Middlecott, DFM, they went 0-3 at the beginning. This is the passing of the torch, right? Hawks, they had to lose this one to accept the power of DFM. I'm going to hold to that, after this, they're going to pop off. They did have a rather rough schedule to open so far. I mean, they played Axis, who
look surprisingly good. Yeah, surprisingly good.
Absolutely amazing. Rascal Jester, the number 2 team from last split, who retained most of their roster, so they've got that early season buff. And they play DFM, who is right now looking like the best team in the league. Maybe with Access. We'll see how that one goes. But for now, looking really far up there. So Hawks have had the roughest start to the season you could possibly have. It only goes downhill. It gets easier from here.
It gets easier from here. Hopefully.
It gets easier from here. So I have great hope for them. I trust.
Well, a team that's had a great start to the season is Burning Core. And they're going to be playing up against Sengoku in our next game. We are going to be going to a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.